Als ik mij kort zelf even mag voorstellen. Ik ben Mark Hovaert. Ik ben aangesproken door ILO om te fungeren als moderator voor een gedeelte van de conferentie. Nu, waarom? Omdat ik afgelopen maand in de prijzen gevallen ben via de InBev Baillet Latourprijs voor het Leefmilieu 2011. Wat een hele eer was voor mezelf, mijn familie en het bedrijf. Want wij zijn een landeigenaar, actief landbouwbedrijf. En vandaar dat het een mooie erkenning was voor ons om dat te mogen beleven. En in aanvulling daarvan krijg ik hier mijn vuurdoop om moderator te zijn van een internationaal panel, die ik straks kort even zal voorstellen. Het zijn 3 mensen die alle 3 een Life Plus project lopen hebben. 3 mensen van internationaal niveau. Mevrouw Walsh is van Ireland. Meneer Tiefenbacher is from Austria. En Herr Schmidt-Vorman is from Alemania. Nu spreek ik verschillende talen door elkaar. Hopelijk is het verstaanbaar. Ja. Nu, we gaan het bij Nederlands houden. Dit gezegd zijnde, ik moet nog een kleine mededeling doen van de organisatie. Op het einde van de conferentie is gevraagd geweest om de headphones ter plaatse te laten liggen. Gelieve ze niet mee te nemen naar huis, want thuis werkt dat niet. Nu, 3 internationale sprekers. Zij zullen op hun manier, alle 3, hun project voorleggen. Het is niet aan mij om een project of om hun de loef af te steken, zeker niet. Ik ga hen aan het woord laten. En als eerste gastspreker verwelkom ik dus de heer Herbert Tiefenbacher van Oostenrijk met zijn Life Plus project Living Space in the Estuary Stretch of the River Traisen. Aan u het woord.
Thank you, Mr. Gevaert. I would like to thank the ILO for the kind invitation to Brussels. Let me take you now to a 20-minute trip to Austria. My presentation consists of 3 parts. I will start with some background information. How was Natura 2000 implemented in my region in Lower Austria? How am I, respectively, how is the forest estate I'm working for concerned by the problems? Then I will deal with the problems we encountered up to now with Natura 2000. And finally, I will give you 5 examples to demonstrate how we reacted and how we try to get actively involved in the management of Natura 2000. I am convinced that landowners are a key factor in conserving nature values. It therefore appears logical to me and essential to ensure their participation in managing Natura 2000 areas, no matter whether the landowners are public or private. That, however, is a minority point of view in my country, in the Nature Conservation Authority of my country. Maybe we are a little bit back behind Belgium in this point. The administration tried and is still trying to implement Natura 2000 regardless of the affected landowners. As you can imagine, results are moderate. Why is that so? Austria joined the EU in 1995, years after Habitats and Birds directives were adopted. So no discussion of this question had taken place in Austria prior to accession. Many agriculture and forestry officials did not attach importance to Natura 2000, and even now many landowners don't. Nature conservationists in the authority and NGOs had a vast field of activity on their own. One result of this ignorance was the designation of over 30% of my province's territory as Natura 2000. You can see the bird sites on this slide. A neighboring province only nominated 3%. Therefore, debates between nature conservation officials and landowners about the management of Natura 2000 sites usually get heated rapidly in my province. How am I concerned by Natura 2000? I work in a private forest estate. It's located mostly in the Danube Valley near Vienna in the eastern part of Austria. Over 4,000 out of 5,000 hectares of our estate have been designated as parts of 3 different Natura 2000 sites. Possible consequences and problems are numerous. Tree species like hybrid poplars, black walnut, or Douglas fir are undesired by nature conservationists. Due to the proximity of our estate to Vienna and to other cities, forestry is only one of many uses of our lands. Hunting, fishing, recreational activities, gravel mining, public infrastructure projects compete with forestry, and all these activities rival Natura 2000 goals. Which are the problems we encountered so far? Up to now, our authorities do not seem to have a clear perspective on the future development of our Natura 2000 sites. One reason may be the fact that management restrictions would entail financial claims by landowners. Therefore, we do not get clear answers to our questions on future management options. As soon as the authorities started to establish management plans for Natura 2000 areas, we suggested making one for our estate. The authority did not approve the idea. Private landowners have not been welcome at any stage of Natura 2000 implementation. By now, official management plans exist, but their content is superficial, it's imprecise. This leaves us with a dilemma. The orientation of our management towards the goals of Natura 2000 entails financial losses, but there is no compensation due to the lack of explicit regulations in the management plans. We experience a second dilemma. Public infrastructure projects of a certain size are regularly carried out due to their economic importance, even in Natura 2000 areas. They cope comparatively easy with higher planning costs and compensation requirements. Small-scale private projects, however, usually fail already in the planning phase. They have to ensure the same high level in nature compatibility declarations as big projects and consequently face high costs. As you can see, Natura 2000 increased uncertainty for our management decisions, and it set up new barriers for diversification in non-agricultural fields of activities. This leads me to my main point. How did we react, and how are we involved in managing our Natura 2000 sites? First, we tried to reduce uncertainty. In 2005 and 2006, we issued 2 studies partly financed by the authority named Natura 2000 Conflict Management in a Private Forest Estate. On the one hand, we specified aims and requirements of nature conservation. On the other hand, we listed possible projects and ideas on land use by the owner, by us. We identified potential conflicts between these goals, and we tried to define ways of conflict resolution. Finally, we classified the projects into one group which does not require further examination by the authorities, a group which definitely needs their consent, and one group in between where the approach depends on the specific circumstances of the project. Since that time, we followed the results of these studies in our daily work. In the next step, we focused on forest management. We established a so-called Waldfachplan, a sectoral land use planning instrument according to Austrian forest law. We listed silvicultural management options and their respective interactions with Natura 2000 goals. For essential goals, we did a more detailed assessment. We analyzed silvicultural options, enhancing the goals of Natura 2000. We focused on questions like time frame, costs, of course, possible scale of implementation, and the obstacles. This planning was partly financed by the Ministry of Forestry. Up to now, however, the actions we proposed have not been implemented due to lack of funding. In 2006, a new motorway was planned in the proximity of our estate, including a bridge across the river Danube. The motorway crosses the floodplain forests along the river. They are designated as Natura 2000, as you can see on the slide. Extensive mitigation measures have been demanded to ensure nature compatibility of the project. We proposed the realization in our estate. An agreement could be reached which allocated a total of 50 hectares of these measures to us. The measures include afforestation, modification of the structures of our forests, long-term changes of tree species, elimination of foreign species, and habitats for birds. All of them are, of course, designed to promote the goals of Natura 2000, and it will be our responsibility to ensure their proper implementation in the future. Last year, we started a project named Forest Network. It is partly financed by the Regional Nature Conservation Authority. It is designed as a test for the participation of landowners in conserving and managing Natura 2000 areas. Its focus is to establish a network of private and public landowners in one particular Natura 2000 area, and to promote management methods beneficial for the specific nature conservation goals in this specific area. The project has a political background. Up to last year, subsidies earmarked for Natura 2000 have not been used at all in Lower Austria, a fact that demonstrates the existing gap between the Nature Conservation Authority and landowners. Our tasks in this project are to offer an information platform to stakeholders in the area, to create interest and confidence on the landowner's side, which does not yet exist, and to reach the aims of Natura 2000 by encouraging the usage of existing subsidies. If the project is successful, it will be an indicator that Natura 2000 goals can be achieved, in specific cases even better achieved, by assigning the management of Natura 2000 areas to landowners. It will also be an indicator that nature conservation goals can be reached by offering subsidies, avoiding compulsory measures and compensation payments. However, success is not granted yet. No sooner had the first landowners declared their willingness to participate than subsidies were cancelled. Support from the authorities is scarce. Sometimes it even seems that a failure would be welcome. This is a deeply frustrating impression. We will have to intensify our efforts to convince nature conservation authorities that landowners can be reliable and useful partners in managing Natura 2000 areas, or as Mr. Villenfagne put it this morning, we have to explain that we always have been green. This brings me to my final example. Already in 2004, the idea was born to develop a live nature project in one of our Natura 2000 areas. 3 landowners and scientists from the Agricultural University in Vienna started promoting a restoration project in a heavily modified river stretch that you can see on the slide. In 2008, it found support in the EU Commission under the title Habitats in the Estuary Stretch of River Traisen. The project is being coordinated and co-financed by Austrian Hydropower, the company operating all hydroelectric power plants in Austria along the river Danube. Landowners receive compensation payments for opportunity costs for disadvantages and losses. The impacts of the project are considerable. Some 180 hectares of land will be dug off to create a new meandering riverbed and extensive flooding zones along this bed. The majority of the area is actually covered by forests, which have to be uprooted and partly replanted on a lower level. Construction work will interfere with fishing and hunting activities. The forest road system will have to be reconfigured. Afforestations will have to be carried out on agricultural land to compensate forest losses. This map gives you an impression of the project area in the 19th century. As you can see, there is quite a lot to repair. This Life Plus nature project is the biggest and most costly realized in Austria so far. Obviously, a project of that dimension is of interest to many stakeholders, neighbors, communities, NGOs, public authorities of all levels. They brought and still bring forward demands, desires, ideas, and many of them are colliding with landowners' interests. It was essential that it would have been legally impossible to realize the project without our consent, without consent of the landowners. Therefore, two landowners owning approximately 90% of the project area have been involved in the entire planning process. Agreements have been elaborated between the project coordinator and landowners, defining the rights and obligations of both sides. This includes the specification of the landowner's post-life management. It implies restrictions where the Natura 2000 regime requires them, and autonomy where it does not. The final ecological audit will take place within a fortnight, so please keep your fingers crossed for us. I am convinced that results will be spectacular in terms of nature conservation. I am also convinced that our future work, according to the guidelines of this project, will prove one thing. Landowners are perfectly capable of managing Natura 2000 areas and of achieving satisfying results. Thank you for your attention.
Hartelijk dank aan de heer Herbert Tiefenbacher voor zijn deskundige uitleg van het project. We gaan er nu niet verder op in. We gaan direct het woord laten aan de volgende spreker. En dat is de heer Oliver Smit-Vormen van Duitsland met zijn project Lippy Flood Plain. Alsjeblieft.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to give a big thank you to the ILO for the participation in this conference. Yes, I have to start this presentation. Okay, so my name is Oliver Schmidt-Vormann and I'm part of the staff of the Environmental Agency or Office of the City of Hamm. And I'd like to present our project, Live Nature Project Lippe Floodplain. And I want to present some background information, some of our structures behind our project, our aims, and I will draw a special focus on the land acquisition. That's, I think, the main topic of this conference, for sure. So, to give you an idea where we are, this is the Federal Republic of Germany, well known, okay. And the land, the country North Rhine-Westphalia, and we are in the east, as you can see by this red-lined project area, in the city of Hamm. Well known, the heart of North Rhine-Westphalia. Just a joke. Our project area is about 650 hectares, and the Lippe flows from the eastern to the western, as you see on this map. In Hamm, the Lippe is about 22 kilometers long, and in between, or in our project area, it is about 70 kilometers. It's got a status of PSCI, and additional, it is part of protected areas under the Birds Directive. So to understand what we have done in our project, what are our measures and why, and which aims have we developed, I must give you some background information that's very specific. This graph shows a natural floodplain under natural conditions, as we found it several hundred years before, I think. The blue line marks the annual flood, a lower flood event, but in this case, it floods nearly the whole floodplain. And it's rich structured, and you see by this blue marked line, the groundwater level is very high and in a strange connection to the water flow in the Lippe itself. The Lippe is the part on the right side. And high and intensive impact, so the conditions in the floodplain changes immense. And that results in a situation like this. We've got embankments at the river's edge. We have got an intensive land use on the floodplain. We've built drainage ditches to make the floodplain for intensive farming. And as you see on the blue marked line, the groundwater level goes up. And what's the main disease is that the connection between the river and the floodplain could not happen. You see the annual flood line, the HW1 line, is in between the riverbed. There's no connection. So, based on this situation, there are two main things we have done. We removed the bank reinforcements and we changed water logging by closing these drainage ditches. And these are our aims. We try to protect endangered species and habitats for sure. We created new habitats with water bodies, meadows, alluvial forests, and we try to unleash the power of the Lippe River. Because of the bank reinforcements, there was no possibility for the river to move his direction or to transport soil and so on. And that causes, in result, that the riverbed was deepened. Yes, we try to conserve cultural landscape by special forms of farming, by leasing of land. We try to give the public possibility to experience the nature, and we do this all in cooperation with citizens and different occupational groups and groups of interest, even prior that later. We try at the end to reconnect both river and floodplain and river and people. So some details of our project structure. We've done, as you see, we fulfilled a live nature project from 2005 until 2010. And we started with Live Plus in 2010 and will go on until 2015. Both projects with a total amount of 11.5 million euros. And as you see, for land acquisition, we used 42% of the funding. That's about 4.8 million euros that flow to the landowners. We searched and found some partners, several project partners as the Lippe Verband for technical project leadership, and the districts of Warendorf and Soest for project intendances, and a special scientific research and support by a biological NGO, the ABU, as you see. The optimization of the Lippe floodplain has got a little history. The floodplain is set under local legislation for nature protection since 1996. But with this both Life Plus projects, we did a lot of work. And so you can see these 4 areas which we selected for Life Plus. And in addition to the fulfilled Life project Lippe-Aue, nearly 70% of the floodplain is optimized. Okay. So a closer look to our measures. We have removed the bank reinforcements with long-arm dredges, and we put all the soil and stony material into the riverbed. As you have seen, the riverbed was deepened, and so it was possible to let the materials in the river because, or due to lower costs for these measures. We built flood channels so that lower or little flood events can occur and flood several parts of the floodplain, and temporarily water bodies develop, as you see on this picture. We restore woodlands by closing drainage ditches and provide water logging. And with special forms, I will tell you in detail later. We try to change from an intensive farming to an extensive farming nearly by wetlands. So what have been our instruments, and central instrument, and I think a key of success for us was the very early participation of landowner and land users, even prior to submission of application, and that's, I think, essential. In the first step, we developed an agricultural agreement with the Land Trade Association as an umbrella organization for land for farmers. And this arrangement was based on 3 pillars, as you see on this slide: concernment of certification, to observe social acceptance, and to serve social acceptance, and an hydrogeological accompaniment, where we observe groundwaters by building new wells or observe existing wells in the floodplain or out of the project area. And in a second step, we guarantee to protect the tenants, because it was a very important thing, that the tenants without rights have to be protected for threats of their existence. To fulfill our land acquisition, we used the land consolidation, but it's based on voluntary and on mutual content. And this work was done by the Department of Rural Development, which is located as the district government of Arnsberg. And we tried not to raise up any form of pressure, let alone expropriation, what not our instrument. So the advantages of the department is based on varied possibilities of the work. They offer the land of equal value, and they try to be a mediator between private and public interests. And what's essential for their work, a private benefit must be evident. They proceed pursuant to the Land Consolidation Act and secure their results in a land consolidation plan. So to look in detail on what's going on in our Life Plus project, this map, that's the actual status of our land purchase in this area. You see the green areas which are already available in public ownership. The yellow area which is necessary already for land acquisition, and the red areas which have been bought through the land consolidation, which is available for us. And there are two ways for us to fulfill our land purchase, even with exchange, where we pay a 100% market value, and on the other hand, a capitalized compensation for use up to 80%. So the landowner will stay as a landowner. In both cases, it is indispensable that this land purchase was secured through land registry charge, to secure our aims of nature protection. So under this topic of participation, I want to draw some conclusions. On a face-to-face basis with affected groups, even prior to the submission of the application, and that was a main factor of our work. We tried to participate public persons before starting and until implementation of actions. We participate the concerned persons like farmers, landowners, and so on, directly and over their umbrella organizations. And we participate non-government and government organizations by pre-arrangements and during the detailed planning. Yeah, for additional information, that was a short cut of all with several measures. Please visit our internet domain live-lipperauer.de, and I got some pieces of our layman's report. It's in the front of this room. If you like to, I've got some in my bag for further informations. And yeah, in the summary, it was a great success under LIFE, especially for the endangered species, as shown in our monitoring with several species like St. Martin or the kingfisher. The data raises up after the project was fulfilled. And yeah, we got a lot of good and good feedback from the public. And this success all along the line was honored by the IU, Mr. Salzi, invited us to come to Brussels, and we've been here for a few months ago, and we are one of 6 best of the best projects that finished the work in 2010. Yeah, a great honor for us. So thank you for your attention.
Dank aan de heer Smit-Vormen. Het is inderdaad een boeiende voorstelling, had ik de indruk. En als derde spreekster hebben we... Normaal beginnen we bij de dames. Dit keer eindigen we met de dames, maar ik zou zeggen last but not least. Het was ook met mede goedkeuren van haar dat zij als laatste spreekster aan het woord ging komen. Dus geen schuld aan ons. Mevrouw Maura Welsh, graag nodig ik u uit om uw project voor te leggen. Het is een hele mond vol. Ik ga het proberen goed uit te spreken. The restoration of the upper river Blackwater sac for the freshwater pearl mussel, Atlantic salmon, European otter and kingfisher. Please.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Mark. Good evening, everybody. I hope I don't put everybody to sleep. It's a bad time, I know, after lunch to have to listen to my 2 predecessors' very interesting presentations. Just to explain who IRD Duhallow or what IRD Duhallow is. It was founded in 1989. It's a local company for development. It was founded by local businessmen, all of them involved in salmon fishing on the River Blackwater, which goes through our area. And the initial aim was to generate jobs through the development of angling tourism. What is known as an integrated local development company. In other words, we started off delivering the LEADER programme as a local action group, but we are not confined to LEADER. We have, in fact, managed 28 different national and EU programmes in the last 20 years, and I am working with the company for that length of time. Our board is a voluntary board made up of 24 people. The majority are from the community, so we have the landowners, community activists, NGOs, some elected local authority members as well, just 4, and some state agency representatives, and also the social partners, because we do a lot of social projects. This is our LEADER strategic plan on a page. I'm not going to go into it, but just to say that there are 4 main elements in our plan. The first is human resource development, because without people, you have nothing. The next is the cultural development, because our region, even though quite remote, is very rich culturally. Economic development, obviously, but we've also included environmental development, and this is in 2006 when we were writing our 07 to 13 programme. And in that programme, we identified the protection of habitats and ecosystems, and also the promotion of sustainable land use. But obviously, with our leader budget, it wouldn't be possible to do any in-depth works in those areas. So we were delighted when one of your ELO members, Charles Kane, came to one of our meetings. We work closely with the salmon fishing group that Charles is a member of, and he highlighted to us the possibility of applying for a LIFE programme which would specifically address the freshwater pearl mussels and the salmon in the region. And we put a lot of work in with the local fishing group, the salmon, the Cantork anglers, developed our project, and there's the details of it. We have, our official partner is Inland Fisheries Ireland, but obviously we have working groups and quite a wide variety of interests involved in the project. So there are pearl mussels, the salmon, the kingfisher, dipper and otter. This is our structure, and again, don't run out of the room. It's quite manageable, believe it or not. We started off with maybe 3 working groups when I started working with the company. But over time, as we took on other work, more and more of the population, the local people, became involved. We're limited to just 24 on the board, so basically all the work is carried on through our working groups. So we cover the social as well as the economic, so you will see things like under our community development, for example, we have a working group that deals, with migrant workers. We've had a lot of Eastern Europeans and indeed African people coming to Ireland. So, just to help with the integration side. On the other hand, we've enterprise and agriculture, and you will see their environment, and underneath that, our life steering group. So I know from this morning's interventions that it was reiterated that unless you have a lot of involvement from landowners and from the local communities, your project is going to fail. So I'm quite confident our project won't fail, because we have a lot of involvement from a lot of the communities. The project is very well known and is becoming quite a favourite in the area. Another unique thing in Ireland is our rural social scheme. This was a scheme that was introduced, I think, in 2003 to deal with the problem of, I suppose, if you like, subsistence or semi-subsistence farming, where you had quite a number of small holdings not able to make enough money to sustain a family. But at the same time, these farms is what gives Ireland its patchwork landscape that the tourism and people want. It's a common good. They're the backbone of the volunteers and the communities, where they're involved. So the government at the time came up with this very interesting scheme that rather than just give top up like a social welfare payment, that these farmers, because basically they are underemployed, they're working flat out on their farms because they're not very mechanised, but at the same time they have spare time. So they work with community projects, and the leader groups were given the task of finding suitable community projects. So we linked our LIFE project with the Rural Social Scheme, because one of the issues we have is a huge invasion of this Himalayan balsam. You'd say, how in the name of God did it arrive in the southwest of Ireland? But there it is. And this Himalayan balsam blooms in the summer, blocks out any other species, then it dies off in the winter and the bank is bare. And when the heavy rains come in the winter, there's nothing to protect the bank. The only way that we could properly remove it is by hand. So we needed a lot of manpower and womanpower, and that's what the lads on the Rural Social Scheme are doing. They love the work because it's working outdoors in farmland. And I think it has also helped with the landowners, because it is farmers doing the work on farmland. We're not bringing in other people from other places telling them what to do or how they should run their farms. So we are hoping that our Blackwater River, and especially the Allow, that tributary, will end up having a much better habitat for not just the pearl mussels, but also the other species, the salmon as well. But we're also looking at developing guidelines for the management of the riparian zones, hugely wanting to up community awareness, because we firmly believe that if communities and people knew the impact of their actions, if they knew the environmental impact, they wouldn't do them. You know, they wouldn't maybe open the drains, they wouldn't do the things that they're doing now if they knew the consequences. And we are also going to do a big schools education campaign, because that's the next generation and that's who we need to influence. So our strategic alliances, we've the farmers and landowners, we've 5 second-level schools, also the third-level institutions, local communities. We have 67 community organisations that we work with. They're all know about the project, are involved in it in some way. Forestry owners, mainly public, but some private as well. Our Birdwatch Ireland, and we've set up our own Birdwatch group now in Duhallow. There are other NGOs involved, local authorities, Environmental Protection Agency, Heritage Council, the local angling groups, our National Parks and Wildlife Service, and obviously other EU Life projects that we want to link with as well. This was one of the first evenings we had with the schools. We brought in some of the primary schools and showed them what the pearl mussels looked like. These were obviously dead ones from the bank, I hasten to add. But people hadn't seen them, hadn't known what they were about, so just to let them see, and they were fascinated. You know, children have an insatiable appetite. They love everything to do with nature and what's unusual. We've had a lot of publicity around the project, I suppose not least because there's only 2 life projects in Ireland and we're one of them, but also I think we're the first local action group, or non-state expert group, to actually start delivering a life project. And I think if we make a good job of it, and I sincerely hope we do, that there is, if you like, a pilot basis there for other local action groups, not only in Ireland but right across Europe, to become involved. And specialist, it's never going to really succeed. It has to, become the vernacular, and everybody has to see a place. So we had a local television programme based on the life project. We've had the national radio down, see them there filming, and we've had several articles in our local papers. We also do a newsletter every month. It's delivered into 10,000 houses in the area, and about 3 times a year the life project gets a full page on that. We've a website, if anybody wants to www us, there we are. So I suppose, what are the actions and what are the problems? Riverbank erosion, which you'll see up there on the top. I suppose if I go back to the start and where it's all coming from, some of the previous 2 projects resonated with me when I saw the older pictures of the meandering river. We too had a meandering river. What I have seen happening in Duhallow over the 20 years that I've been driving through the region, all our uplands have been planted as part of the drive to get, I suppose, an environmental drive really, but with maybe negative environmental consequences. We've had an awful lot of planting of sitka spruce forestry on the upland reaches, which would have been natural bogland, which would have held the water and released it slowly into the rivers. Now this is drained, thousands and thousands of drains, so the minute the heavy rainfall we get in Ireland hits that mountain, it just whooshes down like you'd pull the chain on the toilet, and out before it goes gravel with salmon spawn and you name it, everything is cleared off the river. What's also happening is that the bed is, like I said, the bed is starting to get deeper, and it cuts in at each side. So as it cuts at each side, there's like a cliff effect, the land falls in. So you get these overhangs. There are cattle still. We don't have intensive farming, but having said that, it's very animal-friendly farming, so the cattle are allowed roam. So they roam in the river regularly. We have the species, of course, our Himalayan balsam that has to be removed. But the end result of all of it is, if you've seen that bottom photograph, you can hardly see it, but it's basically the silted up poor mussels trying to survive inside a bed of mud. That's a closer one of it. They're not going to survive. That speaks for itself. So our results, we're hoping to get rid of the nutrient enrichment, improve the habitat. We balanced bankside vegetation. We've already started. We've 8 kilometres of Himalayan balsam pulled on the banks this last 12 months. We're replacing that with willows, native species. We're also looking at the guidelines for the management of the riparian zones in the special areas of conservation, restoring the habitat in the upper reaches of the Blackwater River, increasing public awareness of the river and the habitat that it contains, and increased environmental appreciation throughout all our schools. And we're also looking at environmental improvement of farm practices and a management plan for landowners. Our challenges, and I suppose we didn't realise we were going to have so many, but they're nothing new to us either. We'll have to meet them and get on with them. One of them is, I suppose, the EU subsidy rules for farmers. As you can see in that photograph, the farmer has obviously pushed his fence as close to the bank as he can. Now that bank has been falling. Actually, in the 2 years from the time we did the initial assessment to make the application to when we got through the application process and went back out to see what we could do, almost a metre of that land, that fence was a metre back, and now it's right on the bank. If this continues, he's going to lose his land, and I know some other farmer is probably going to gain a piece of land wherever it lands downstream. But if I asked him this minute to move that fence back a couple of metres, his single farm payment is going to be hit. So he's going to take a financial hit for giving up land to be left to protect the river. So that's something that I'd like to see happen in the new single farm payment rules, that if land is being given over for a life project or for a conservation project, that should be counted. Incidentally, that rule is also aiding and abetting the illegal burning of gorse and firs on the mountainsides, because if you leave it there, it's not counted as land. If you burn it and burn the birds with it, they'll pay you. And I can't see the logic in that. The forestry, I have an issue there as well. In Ireland, our forestry works different maybe to the European forestry in that we don't take out, trees every year. They grow for 30 years, we take the whole lot out. We plant them again, they grow for 30 years, we take the whole lot out. So you end up with a kind of Hiroshima after the bomb scene for a few years, and a lot of silt and water getting into the river again. Now, they tell me that there's a problem that because this land was planted, again with EU subsidies, that it has to be replanted, that they cannot leave it bare, or they cannot leave it go back to bog, which is what we think should happen, so that at least that sponge effect is restored. So I think there should be some movement there at EU level which would allow that to happen. And the third thing is the whole issue, and I thought I was saying something innovative, but I think nearly everybody has said it this morning. We need to address the issues of landowners and farmers providing public goods in relation to the landscape, habitats and ecosystems. It's not fair to take person's or family's livelihood in the public interest. Something has to be put in place. And because landowners are providing public goods, I think that has to be addressed, and I believe there is something in the new CAP that will look at that. The other challenges we've had is around licensing. I did not realise in my innocence that because we were doing a conservation project, that we would be subject to the same licence and appropriate assessment as if we were building a nuclear power plant inside in the river. We have to get licences for everything, including those photographs that I showed you earlier on. They had to be licensed. Because our authority is so snowed under with everybody looking for everything, it takes about 7 months to get a licence. And then you get the licence, and then the fishing rule clicks in, because you can't go in the river between March and September, September and March for the salmon. And then the licence doesn't click in until September, so you're out of the river for 12 months. I've been grappling with that rather badly at times, but I'm trying to be nicer about it. This snorkeling that you see going on there, in order to get the photographs and to work on the river, our 3 people that we had working on the project, all 3 of them PhD doctorates, had to apply for another license, and part of that was a snorkeling training. And the piece of the river that they did this training in had been snorkeled, and the pearl mussels counted 10 years ago. And in the 10 years from the original survey, which was done by the same woman that provided the training for this, the amount of pearl mussels had halved. So that we are against the clock is an understatement. What needs to be done fast, because these pearl mussels are not going to survive. So on our other piece of publicity, that nice man with the glasses is our Minister for the Environment, and he raised the life flag. We have it flying in front of our office back in the James O'Keefe, and some of these are our local politicians and farming representatives, and that we had a great day. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope it informed you some bit and informs the discussion. If you have any questions, I'd be delighted to take them. And outside the door, I brought our brochure, and which gives close details of the project, and also the annual report of our company. Please help yourselves, and I would welcome any questions. Thank you, Mark.
Dank u wel, mevrouw Walsh. En bij deze wil ik de 3 sprekers allen van harte bedanken voor een perfecte voorstelling. Nu gaan we, iedereen heeft ook de timing in de gaten gehouden, fantastisch. We zitten op schema. Nu hebben we nog een kwartier de ruimte voor de vragenronde vanuit het publiek. Ik heb ook begrepen vanuit de 3 projecten dat water in de 3 projecten zeer centraal staat. Zeer centraal zelfs. Goed, hier in Vlaanderen, ikzelf ben er iets minder in bekend, maar het fascineert mij enorm. Het is een fantastische combinatie, water, land, lucht. Is er iemand in het publiek die een vraag wenst te stellen aan een van de sprekers? Zo niet. Ah, voilà. Meneer.
I just a bit surprised about this issue of licensing. What do you mean by licenses?
In order to take a photograph of an endangered species, you have to have a license from the competent authority. In order to stand in the river or do anything, you have to have a license. And just to explain, I was fascinated by this myself. When we were told, we were making a presentation, you see, to our partners, and they're very nice, these people in Parks and Wildlife, they're very helpful. And one of my staff was showing them the pearl mussels, and she said, "Have you a license for that photograph?" And I kind of said, "No." "Should I?" And she said, "Yes." So I said, "Okay, we will make application immediately." So when I went about making application, I had to say what species I wanted to have photographed. So I said, "I don't really know, because I don't know what's in the river until we go taking the pictures." And they said, "Well, you have to put in for everything then." So we had to list everything that we possibly thought might be in the river. And somebody put down char, I think, which is a type of fish. And after about 3 months, as we say in biblical terms, 40 days and 40 nights passed, and back came the reply, "We were not aware that there was char in the river. Can you please ascertain what evidence you have from ocean?" So we had to go back and say, "No, actually, you can scratch that. we don't think we have them." There is a different person in charge of each species in this body. You see, you have the expert for mussels and the expert for salmon and the expert for flies or whatever. So my application had to go around to all the experts to get signed off on, and I get back my license. We got it, but it took 7 months.
Voldoende voor u?
To take photographs. And we had gone off and bought a lovely camera, and it was sitting in the office and I couldn't use it.
Voldoende voor u? Is het compleet?
Sorry.
Okay. Het bewijst wel dat het kluwen in de administratie een hectische toestand is. Laat ons eerlijk zijn, uit ervaring, kijk, mevrouw Wals komt het hier duidelijk te maken, het werkt te traag. Het werkt wel, maar het werkt niet goed. Dus we moeten, denk ik, Europees er iets aan doen om toch maar ook weer landelijk vlugger tot actie te kunnen overgaan. Meneer.
Yes, thank you. François Laviolette from the Walloon region. Mrs. Walsh mentioned that the pearl mussel population just decreased in 10 years. Half, yes. I think in Germany, the kingfisher was increasing quite quickly. Yes. Is it possible maybe to give other information about the species reactions, no, of populations of species? Maybe kingfisher in Ireland or maybe otter, and maybe in both other projects, if some species rapidly reacted to the management of the project. Thank you.
I'm not so sure, can I give you very accurate information, because I'm the overall manager and I have a project scientist that works, I wish he were here with me, but we're only working on the project for 1 year, so it would be unfair to say that it was as a result of the project. But I do know, for example, that we have got from another LIFE project in another country, the kingfisher, they did a model for kingfisher nests, and we're going to adopt that model and put them in the banks. The other thing we have done is we have used a very crude method that we got from an old farmer of putting, you know, the little stakes that you put for electric fences, we have pushed them into the bank at intervals, and we're watching as they start appearing. So I can tell you how far back the bank is going as it happens. The freshwater pearl mussel has been in decline for a number of years. I do know that the youngest that has been found in our river is something like 60 years old. They lived about 120 years. But the decline in the last 10 years has been prolific. The decline started about, we reckon, the Blackwater in Kerry, the same name, different river, that is the one that's in least decline. That only started about 30 years ago. It started longer in the Blackwater. The only correlation that I can see, as my background is economics, not ecology, but the only thing that I can see from knowing the area, living in it and working there, is the afforestation of the upreaches. That's the only thing that has happened different. Farm practices have changed, but not a lot. The bulk of our farmers are semi-subsistence farmers. We don't have intensive agriculture in our region. So that hasn't happened. We didn't have the major building boom. We didn't have a Celtic tiger like, you know, the areas that were nearer to cities. So I'm kind of pushing it to the draining of the uplands and the wash down from the mountains into a single river channel. I think that's our problem.
My question is addressed to the three speakers. In which manner do you work with scientific centers, universities, with really to show what you are starting with and which are the goals, and to put them in scientific centers? I put for the three speakers.
Mr. Foreman?
That part was done in our project by our project partner, the ABU, Biologische Station in German. There are some doctors of biologists, and they do the monitoring for us. For instance, they do some investigations on fishes like the nose. I think it's in English nose, in German Nase. Because it had gotten a nose. And the population rises up in those parts of the flood or the river which we reorganized. And as another example, the sand martin or kingfishers in their populations rise up because they built tunnels in these steep banks, and by removing these reinforcements, we construct these deep banks a lot of these deep banks. And in 2000, there were no St. Martin at the Lippe, and now today, in 2011, we counted 183 of these channels.
For our part, we have the National Parks and Wildlife Service are one of the people that are working with us. They're also the licensing authority, but they are monitoring very closely. We've also developed very close links with the Institute of Technology in Tralee, and the scientist, the head of the department there, has actually placed a student with us, a postgraduate, for the whole summer month, and we will get another student next year. So there will be very close links in. And the bird life habitat side is being done through University College in Cork. And again, one of their professors is actually on our bird watch group and on our environmental group and steering group. So we have linked closely with the two colleges in our area, plus National Parks and Wildlife.
Our LIFE project started in 2008. Now we have 2011. Construction work will start in 2012. So it took 4 years to establish the scientific background to make the planning and monitoring of the project. Several Austrian universities did it, and the project file is a paper mountain of about 1.5 meters high.
Other questions? Andere vragen? Nee. Als ik even mag tussenkomen, mevrouw Walsh. U sprak van het RSS. Dus dat betekent de landbouwers die worden ingezet als landschapsonderhouders. Dat betekent ook dat zij een extra inkomen kunnen genereren. Goed, denk ik.
There are 2,600 farmers across the country involved in it. I have 58 of them in the Duhallow region. So they've been there since 2003 now. There is some rotation. It's not always the same, farmers. But we would expect that program will last well into the future. It's an alternative to just giving a social welfare payment. It's there as an incentive. So that scheme will be there into the future. So there is no money from the LIFE project going to pay the people working on it, other than the 3 core staff. So that should and that's why we use the rural social scheme, because they will have the skills and they will also have the local knowledge to continue to work on the project into the future.
Okay. Mr. Smith-Foreman, ik had gehoord, 41% van het budget ging naar aankoop van de terreinen rond Lippe. Daar hebt u ook goed, de vraag is dat een vrijwillige aankoop geweest of is dat een gedwongen aankoop geweest? Zijn die tarieven die gehanteerd worden naar de landeigenaars, zijn die boven proportie van de gangbare markt om die mensen te stimuleren om te verkopen? En dan zag ik ook dat u met certificaten werkt, wat ik wel een prachtig voorbeeld vind, naar de pachtbescherming. Kunt u daar nog eens even op doorgaan?
That's not easy to say. One pillar of this agreement with this umbrella organizations for the farmers is to protect the tenants for threats of their existence. We guarantee that we will first ask the tenants if they will lease the land after we bought it from the landowner. That's one of the main guarantees we give for the tenants. And in 100% of the cases, the tenants lease the land back from us. But under our own constructions, on our own points.
Oké. Dat is een mooi initiatief, denk ik, dat jullie de kans geven aan de plaatselijke bevolking om terug hun eigen landerijen van vroeger verder te kunnen zetten. Is daar een duurtijd? Is there a time?
The agreements with the tenants goes until the project ends, and then we will define new agreements.
Ja.
So that was a very short duration, but the tenants have got an idea of what will happen after the project ends, because nearly then we try to raise up our focus.
Ja, oké.
U had een interessante vraag over de prijzen.
Mhm.
Ik zou daar graag een antwoord op willen.
Juist. We zullen dus inderdaad iets meer economisch erop ingaan. Want er zijn, nu spreek ik even voor mezelf, er zijn verschillende soorten eigenaars. Er zijn eigenaars die kopen landbouwgronden als belegging, dat is één zaak. Er zijn ook eigenaars die landgebruiker zijn. De combinatie tussen eigenaar zijn en het duurzaam beheer van uw gronden. En er zijn ook eigenaars die leven van hun gronden, die effectief landbouwer zijn. Dus vandaar dat economisch aspect dat ik hier ook eens aan wil halen. Laat ons een simpel voorbeeld geven om iedereen even mee te laten denken. Ja, want ik denk, ecologie kunt u nooit loskoppelen van economie. Dat wil ik ook aan de gastspreker straks eens even voorleggen. Gewoon een voorbeeldje, landbouwgrond. Ik denk dan aan het noorden van Vlaanderen, noorden van België, waarop ik dan mijn terreinen beheer, €50.000 voor 1 hectare. Laat ons zeggen dat we jonge individuen bekijken, die moeten naar een financiële instelling stappen, die gaan er een lening aan voor 4%. Dus dat betekent jaarlijks €2000 aan interestlasten af te lossen. Als die mensen, en dan spreek ik zowel voor alle groepen, maar zeker voor die laatste groep, die landbouwersgroep, als die mensen gronden ontnomen worden voor Natura 2000, moet daar wel een compensatie tegenover kunnen staan. En heel de voormiddag heb ik nog niet gehoord over de financiële middelen. Hier heb ik enkele cijfers zien ronddwalen. Maar mijn vraag is, wordt daar genoeg rekening mee gehouden vanuit Europa als men gronden van bestemming verandert? Houdt men er genoeg rekening mee met die compensatie naar die grondgebruiker, die grondeigenaar? Meneer Tiefenbacher?
From the point of view of a landowner, I think it is one of the big, maybe the main disadvantage of the LIFE program, that you get money once and not every year. And in a forest estate or as a landowner, you live from your land. You don't live from selling it or from selling rights from your land. So we have to cope with that. We took the chance to realize this Life Plus project. As I told you, we are confronted with uncertainty. Natura 2000 increased uncertainty for our management. Here we had a chance to have security. We got the money for this area, for the project area, and we know that we don't have a loss. That's the hard fact. What we don't know yet is if we will have gains with this money. But we would prefer a solution where we get money every year and not just once at the beginning of the project.
Oké. Aansluitend, meneer Vaassen.
Does it work?
Yes,
okay,
yes, yes.
sorry. Yes, in fact, I wanted to comment something here because, I mean, there was a bit of a hint that there might be a problem with the land prices on the LIFE projects. I think I really have to emphasize the fact that we are fully aware that this is a sensitive issue, and we are making sure that projects are never buying land above the market price. And it's not only an issue for the beneficiary of a project himself, because he would basically kill his own opportunities. It is an issue for us. It is also an issue of cost effectiveness and of fairness, of course. I mean, the biggest accident that could happen is that a live project creates a local speculation of the prices. So this is something that we are looking at very carefully already at the stage of a project selection. The other point that was mentioned by Mr. Tiefenbacher is the question, which I can fully understand, that you would prefer to have annual payments. In fact, this is something that for budgetary reasons is not possible, because the project is restricted in time, and the payments he was making allusion of are one-off payments, or single payments, for an amount that is of course much higher than an annual payment, but which is normally based on an estimation of the, taking into account interest rates and etc. I don't know how you say this in German, but nor in English. Sorry, but the price is again a market price, because otherwise the forest company would not have accepted the payment. And at the same time, it is not a price that goes above the market price, because then the European taxpayer would be a victim. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Een laatste afronding, want we zijn beperkt in tijd, helaas, want er komen nog mensen aan het woord. Ik wou nog eventjes aanhalen, al die punten van Natura 2000, als men van bestemming wenst te wijzigen van Europa, denk er ook bij na dat er een bestemmingswijziging in het gebied moet kunnen optreden. Dan denk ik naar een recreatief karakter. Ik heb het aan de lijve ondervonden. Eigendommen die beslist worden door een overheidsinstantie om dat te klasseren als zijnde natuur. Ik heb daar mee ingestemd. Ik heb gezegd, goed, ik kan daarmee leven, maar een deel van het inkomen gaat weg. Ik wens er een extra dimensie aan mijn bedrijf te gaan geven dat een extra inkomen genereert, zodanig dat ik dat verlies van die bestemmingswijziging kan compenseren. En dan dacht ik aan een recreatief karakter. En aanvullend op het verhaal van mevrouw Walsh, daar is de administratieve molen gigantisch geweest. 2,5 jaar, om je een idee te geven, om van een oud landgebouw, 300 jaar oud, historisch van karakter, niet geclasseerd, wel in 7 generaties lang in eigendom bij ons, familie, wensen we te behouden, wensen we zelf input te geven, financiële input, en 2,5 jaar moeten voor vechten om het te kunnen ter beschikking te stellen van groepen. Net zoals we hier allen vandaag zitten, zouden we dit ook op Hoeve Engelendag al kunnen doen. Het kluwen door de administratie, denk er eens aan mensen, probeer dat tot een minimaal niveau te reguleren. Voilà. Ik dank iedere gastspreker nogmaals. Ik dank jullie voor jullie aandacht en de volgende sprekers.